Not the first time I heard that accusation.
When I walk into Madison Square Garden this year,
you're expecting a championship?
No, I didn't say that. But what I'm saying is, don't tell me there's less pressure. And I'm going to tell you why. Carmelo Anthony has been in the NBA for 13 years. He's been to the playoffs 10 times. He has gotten out of the first round twice. Now, I'm sorry. No. You making $122 million. You average 25 points per game for your career. This brother shows up in the postseason averaging better than 23. Okay? You got out of the first round twice. Now, damn it, no.
But what does that tell you?
Melo has the most perfect name on the planet for him. Because for the most part, that brother's Melo. Melo's, we gonna be all right. Constantly positive, enthusiastic. He might get a little frustrated in moments, but for the most part, we gonna be all right, Stephen. Relax it. He ain't Lamar Odom. We go out to the crib. Relax. Don't worry about back in the day when they won a championship a few years ago. No, Melo's not like that, but he is Melo. But don't tell me it's less pressure. It's more pressure because if I'm a Knicks fan, I see you in the news for all of these other reasons, and I appreciate it. But I also want you in the news for this. In May, at least May, if not June, could you give me May? May, man, not the end of April.
What are you complaining about? You're older than me. You've seen the Knicks championship. I've never seen.
But right now, I'm looking at the Knicks with Derrick Rose running his mouth, Joakim Noah, Kristaps Porzingis, and Melo. To me, based on what I've seen in the Eastern Conference, there's no reason on earth why I can't see the Knicks against Cleveland in a conference final.
Okay, I don't think with Carmelo Anthony and Paul George. A couple years ago, it was pretty obvious Paul George is a better basketball player than Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony could do more difficult things more easily on offense, but as an overall impact player, both sides of the floor, Paul George was a two-way player. Carmelo Anthony isn't. Maybe Carmelo isn't good enough to be the best player on a championship team.
I'm not willing to concede that yet.
Holy moly, we got a lot to talk about today. First of all, Maury Stoudemire retired as a Knick, which is funny as I don't even know why he even signed a contract with the Knicks to retire. Doesn't even make any sense. One season of greatness, and then after that Carmelo's trade. After that, ever since then, he's not been anything special. But congrats to Maury Stoudemire for retiring. But let's start about some of these topics. Stephen A. and Max Kellerman were talking about on First Take. Talking about Carmelo Anthony and being in the news a lot in the offseason, being vocal for the black community, and saying that there's less pressure for him, if there's less pressure for him on the Knicks now. And I agree with Stephen A. Smith, man. There better damn be more pressure on Carmelo Anthony. I'm tired of this nigga not making the playoffs. I'm tired of this nigga not getting out the first round, albeit some of the teams he's had not great teams. But this roster, man, like Stephen A. said, this roster is good enough where you guys could make the playoffs. And yo, this is the best team Melo probably has ever had on the Knicks. I mean, this is the best point guard he's ever had. I mean, we went through Tony Douglas, Iman Shumpert, Jeremy Lin, Raymond Felton, Chauncey Billups. I mean, none of those point guards are better than Derrick Rose. And then back in the day, we had the best center the Knicks had was Tyson Chandler. Well, now we got Joakim Noah, so you got that position filled. Knicks never really had a good shooting guard, to be honest. I mean, back in the day, we had what? Iman Shumpert. Who do we even have back in the day? All I can remember is Iman Shumpert, sometimes Ronnie Brewer, Jason Kidd at starting at shooting guard. I mean, come on, now we got Courtney Lee, which I think is better than those guys. He's definitely a better shooter, better defender. So you got Courtney Lee out there. Then we got a good power forward. Amari Stoudemire back in the day was hurt a lot. Basically became irrelevant. Sometimes Carmelo started the floor. We had sometimes Ronnie Brewer out there. Stuff like that. Steve Novak. But come on, Porzingis is a rising star. And when you look at the bench, I mean, the bench is still good. I mean, before we had J.R. Smith off the bench, we had players like Chris Copeland, Steve Novak, Kenya Martin. But this bench is still pretty good with Brandon Jennings coming off the bench. Lance Thomas, who was pretty solid off the bench last season. So this team could possibly be the best team Melo's had for the Knicks. Now, talking about Melo's personality, yeah, Carmelo Anthony is a mellow person. He's not like Dwayne Wade or LeBron James. He's not that leader on the team. But last season, you know, he was showing some leadership. Excuse me. And the thing about the Olympics is you see Carmelo Anthony telling guys on the Olympics, get back on defense, get back in transition, run the court, run up and down the court. In the last Olympic game, Kyrie Irving, I think, made a shot or was celebrating one of the shots from his teammates that made us a basket on the other end, and he was laxing on defense. And Kyrie Irving is not really known for his defense, but Melo got on Kyrie Irving. He's like, hey, we ain't trying to play our last days go defense out here. You better get your ass back on defense, boy. Better get your ass back. Now, Melo's not a great defender, as Stephen A says. He's not a great defender. But overall, if he's put on a good team that plays good defense, he can actually be a pretty solid defender. I mean, he's average, at least average. I mean, give him that. Even last season, he played some defense at certain points. You could look at the clips, you could look at the games. He played some solid defense, and the Knicks were elite at 3-point defending last season. So you can't just disregard Carmelo's credit for all that. But Carmelo needs to focus on becoming more a team leader, you know, like a LeBron James, you know, like a Draymond Green on his team, because he's that man, and I think he could be that man, and he's showing that capability in the Olympics right now. So I'm happy he's getting this opportunity to showcase his leadership. And you know, he needs to start hate losing games, man. I think if he wants to win, he needs to start hate losing first, because sometimes, you know, the Knicks just not make the playoffs, and it's like, you know, it's whatever. I know he's not happy about it. Of course, no one's gonna be happy about it, but he needs to really get down and hate losing, man. That's when you're gonna really start saying he needs to come out this season and start dropping 25 points per game like he did a couple seasons ago, because that's what we need. We need 24 points per game from Melo. And the other teammates could pick up the rest of the points per game and the rebounding and the defense. But the next thing, Stephen A says the Knicks would make, or he wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks would make the Eastern Conference Finals. And I would agree. If you look at the East, you know, Celtics did acquire Al Horford, so you can say they got better. But honestly, there's not a lot of teams in the East, like I keep saying, that have gotten better. Like, which teams have gotten better and which teams have gotten worse? The Raptors didn't really acquire anybody. They re-signed DeRozan. They got Jared Sullinger, but they lost Bismack Biyombo. So it's like they're basically the same team. I mean, the Hawks didn't really do anything. All they lost, who did they lose? They lost Jeff Teague, so they have less depth on their team. They have Dwight Howard, who's to be seen what he's gonna do on that squad. The Heat are basically irrelevant. The Bulls, I mean, did the Bulls really get better? Come on now, come on. Rondo, Wade, you know, Wade just wants his money. Probably not going to be in there to try to win a chip or anything. And the whole spacing on that court with those three players that can't even shoot well, how's it going to work out, to be honest? And the Hornets, the Charlotte Hornets lost a lot of players, man. They lost Courtney Lee, Al Jefferson. Who else? They lost so many else. Jeremy Lin. They lost their whole team that was pivotal in the last year's playoffs. So the Knicks have a legitimate argument to make the Eastern Conference Finals. If everything goes well, if everyone's healthy, a legitimate argument. Now, next thing, Paul George versus Carmelo Anthony. The reason why I cringe at this is Paul George has only averaged over 20 points per game twice in his career. Last season, which was about 23 points per game, and the season before he got injured, which was 21.7 points per game. So he has not averaged more than 25 points per game yet. So that's to be seen. And of course, Paul George is a two-way player. His offense isn't elite like Carmelo Anthony's, but it's improved. Man, I'm telling you right now, his offense is improving. If you watch the games, you watch the Olympics too, his offense is improving, man. This guy is a baller out there, and he's an elite defender. And Carmelo Anthony, he's an elite offensive player, but Paul George is a two-way player. So yeah, people always like to compare Paul George to Carmelo Anthony. I don't like to do it, but you know. Yeah, I guess Max has a point in saying that, you know, is Carmelo Anthony, can he be the number one guy on the team to win? I mean, Stephen A says he can. He's not going to concede to that fact. I don't know yet, man. I always said that Carmelo Anthony is a second-tier star. There's the first-tier stars like Curry, Durant, LeBron. Then you got the second-tier stars who need another second-tier star in order to come over the hump and win a title. And maybe the second-tier star on the team might be Porzingis. Maybe it's Rose. Maybe it's both of them. Who knows? But let me know in the comment section what you think about all this stuff, all this Knicks talk. And I'm out for now. Peace.